money, and then they would both sign to say that the training had taken place, because the money was actually what they wanted rather than the training. But because the bank was so desperate to pass the money on, that it didn't have the measures in place. And there's a longer story where I was part of the group who had the consultancy to do the evaluation till it went to a senior official's office, and our Kenyan leader didn't understand what was being asked of him in the negotiation for signing the contract, and so we didn't sign because we chose not to pay the bribe, and so we didn't get the contract. So that kind of led to alarm bells right at the start of the process for us, and the bank subsequently found that these problems were in it. Then, elsewhere, it's led to a new public management approach to reforming vocational education training, which essentially is lifted from the English FE experience and the English schools experience in many ways. So what I call, in vet terms, a vet toolkit. There's a series of tools that you can take if you want to have a national policy. I was talking to someone in South Africa yesterday. Somalia is engaged on doing some of this stuff. Afghanistan has got most of this in place, i.e. it's in reports from consultants that this is what we're going to do. So we're taking the English system, or varieties of it, with a bit of Australian, a bit of Scottish to make it sound like it's nice. And we're putting it down and saying, this is the way to do it. So we need some systemic governance reforms. So you need to have governing councils for provider institutions. You need to set up national bodies, possibly sector level bodies, so you won't have corruption and you won't have capture by civil servants. And you need to get industry at the heart of that. You have to set up a qualifications framework. Even though ILO review of the evidence 2 years ago found very little evidence that qualification frameworks work. There's a lot of evidence they don't work, but they're the orthodoxy. You have to, of course, set up quality assurance systems. You have funding reforms that move you from a front-loaded, you get this amount of money because you're an institution, through you get this amount of money because you've got this amount of students, through to eventually being results-based. And you have this language of managed autonomy. We want to take the civil servants, the local education authority, sounds a bit familiar. We want to take that level out and give autonomy to the institution, but we're going to manage it by giving them lots of targets, lots of things they have to report back on, and they won't get the money unless they do what they're told. So it's autonomy, but it's pretty heavily managed at the same time. So it's a set of reforms that's very familiar.